Well, hello my lovelies, it's Murky Meg here. It's Thursday the 11th of February and the ruling has finally come in. At 4 p.m. today, Justice Warby ruled that Meghan indeed wins her court case on the privacy element of her claim. This was the bit where she claimed that they invaded her privacy by publishing extracts of the letter. The judge has said there is no need to go to trial. He has brought down a judgment summary for her to win that element of the court case. That will not go to trial. So the partial part of the court case with regards to the privacy element, it was a win for Meghan. Now let's not all hang our heads and say, oh my God, she won just yet. Because there are two sides to this court case, isn't there? There is the privacy element and the copyright element. The judge has said that there should be a trial limited to issues relating to the ownership of copyright. Now, if you remember in my previous videos when I covered the case itself, a lot of information came spilling out on whether or not Meghan herself owned sole copyright of this letter. And it was put to the court and to the judge that because somebody else helped her, it was Jason Naff, he was part of the Kensington Palace communications team, that she may well not be the sole owner of the copyright of the letter. He could also hold copyright, so it could be joint copyright. But because he's also an employee of Kensington Palace, ergo the Crown could also hold copyright as well. This may well go to trial. The judge said on with regards to the invasion of privacy that the claimant, i.e. Meghan, had a reasonable expectation that the contents of the letter would remain private. The Mail articles interfered with a reasonable expectation. The court also found for the claimant on infringement. Now, this is the part where Meghan said that her copyright was infringed. The judge agreed that the copyright was infringed, but what the judge needs to now push forward for, and which may well go to trial, is whose copyright was infringed. This isn't necessarily a huge win for Meghan. It seems so on the very front of it that she wins and Omid Scooby is screaming from the rafters that it's a win for Meghan. It's not necessarily so. Copyright was infringed, but whose copyright? So on the basis of it, it does seem like a possible win for Meghan. And, a lot of people are saying that it's almost a complete win for her. But it's not over yet. In a statement, Meghan has said, after 2 long years of pursuing litigation, I'm grateful to the courts for holding Associated Newspapers and the Mail on Sunday to account the illegal and dehumanising practices. These tactics and those of their sister publications Mail Online and Daily Mail are not new. In fact, they've been going on for far too long without consequences. For these outlets, it's a game. For me and so many others, it's real life, real relationships and very real sadness. The damage they have done and continue to do runs deep. The world needs reliable, fact-checked, high-quality news. What the Mail on Sunday and its partner publications do is the opposite. We all lose when misinformation sells more than truth, when moral exploitation sells more than decency, and when companies create their business model to profit from people's pain. But for today, with this comprehensive win on both privacy and copyright, we have all won. We now know and hope it creates a legal precedent that you cannot take somebody's privacy and exploit it in a privacy case, as the defendant has blatantly done over the past 2 years. I share this victory with each of you because we all deserve justice and truth, and we all deserve better. I particularly want to thank my husband, mom, and legal team, especially Jenny Affia, for her unrelenting support throughout this process. So we have there Meghan shouting from the rooftops that this is an all-out win, when in fact that is not the case at all. She hasn't won both counts, and she hasn't won any damages for the breach of privacy, because the ownership of copyright is all up for grabs. And that requires a trial to determine who holds the copyright. I'm sure that the Mail on Sunday or associated newspapers will announce an appeal, and there is still the possibility of a hearing on some issues with regards to the copyright element and who owns it. But let's face it, the big hitter was in fact the invasion of privacy, and unfortunately Meghan won that. It doesn't go to trial. The judgment summary has come down, and unfortunately they've sided with Meghan. The judge in summary said, on privacy there are compelling reasons not to allow this aspect to go to trial. On copyright, the defences advanced would be bound to fail, and that is his ruling. If the copyright or who owns the copyright does go to trial, then it will be quite messy, because can you remember that we've got the Kensington Four, the Palace Four? They will be dragged in to all of this about the inner workings of who wrote that letter. But unfortunately, if it does go to trial, we will never find out about the open questions that everybody is asking if Meghan did in fact help with finding freedom, because that is done and dusted now. That was part of the privacy infringement element of this court case, and not with regards to the copyright. So I bet you Omid is now having a very large glass of something, because he won't ever get to be called to court. Well, not in this case anyway. And we won't ever find out about the 4 or 5 or 6 or however many people went to speak to people and what they were told and who gave the okay to what they could say. That is done and dusted. We'll never know unless somebody does a kiss and tell, I suppose. Unfortunately, it is a bit of a blow. You know, both sides are celebrating. It is an almost win for Meghan herself, but there is still that element of who owns copyright. Can I see the Mail on Sunday or associated newspapers going hard on that one? I don't know. You know, this is going to be a bit of a sting to their egos, because she's kind of beaten them down. She's won on the biggest element of the court case. But there is this further element, which there will be a hearing in March to decide the next steps in legal action. So I'm guessing that that is the copyright of who owns it claim. If I'm perfectly honest, I always knew that the element of the privacy aspect of this court case was really an open and shut case. They did invade her privacy, irrelevant of the People article coming out. There was only a brief mention of it, and while watching both sides when the hearing was taking place remotely, I could get a sense that this was the claimant's, i.e. Meghan's, strongest part of the two-part claim. The strongest part on the copyright. I mean, associated newspapers and Mail on Sunday, they really did come up with some compelling questions that need to answer in a trial. And I'm guessing that that's why Justice Warby has ruled this way, because they didn't really answer a lot with regards to the privacy element. Yes, they brought up the People magazine. Yes, they brought up finding freedom. But ultimately, they still invaded her privacy. What you must understand is that over the last week, we have, quite frankly, been bombarded with Harry and Meghan. There's been a huge amount of PR nonsense being pushed. We had them doing this weird poetry thing. Oh, it was so insipid. It was so silly. It really, really was. She had a very bizarre face as well, and it looks like it's been heavily photoshopped. And if you actually look at her face, you can see at the mouth end, it looks like a tongue poking out. I originally thought it was a tongue poking out. You know, Meghan has form with poking her tongue out in very silly, childish ways. No, it's a strange Photoshop element here. It's not her tongue, it's her teeth. Look, can you see it? It's very, very odd. But they have known this judgment for about a week now, maybe 2 weeks. It was always going to be the case that both sides, Meghan and her team, and the Mail on Sunday, knew what the judgment summary was going to be about a week to 2 weeks before it was going to be made public, because they had to rehash things. They could go back to the judge and possibly counter-argue a little bit, but they've known about this. So has this massive PR in your face, we are here, been because they knew that she was going to win the biggest part of the case? And she's jubilant. She's rubbing it in our faces. She's like breathing a sigh of relief, going, ah, ha, 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 I can push forward now. Look at us, aren't we fantastic? We can take on the world. And I can bet your bottom dollar that we can see more and more and more of them. They will be in our faces non-stop now. Because this is done. She's victorious in her mind. Remember what narcissists and how they feel. They think that they can take on the world and rule the world. And this is just another inflation to her ego. That's how narcissists think. God help us, really, really, really. So we've got the review coming up soon as well, and Harry's titles, the military titles, are a big contention with regards to will he, won't he. I suspect that he won't get to keep them. The Queen will strip him. There's no plausible way that he can hold on to his military titles, and I don't think that the Queen will strip them of their titles. I really don't. They will remain the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and they will hold their HRHs, but they just won't be allowed to use them. But again, you see, in a narcissist's mind, she's probably thinking, well, that doesn't affect me, does it? I'm still the Duchess, I'm still HRH, he's just lost his military title. Doesn't affect me, does it? Obviously, I'm summarising. It's my opinion and how I feel that's going through her head. Little bit of a funny element there. But we all know how narcissists behave. Nobody is far more important but themselves, are they? And everything around them must conform. So this victory, in her mind, is just inflating her ego even more. So I suspect we will be bombarded with Harry and Meghan, if not just Meghan herself. So I would love to know your thoughts. Are you disappointed? Were you expecting it? I was kind of expecting the element of privacy to be done and dusted with today, because it was wishy-washy at best. But I'm quite glad that the copyright element has to go to trial, and I really do look forward to that in the next few months. I will be watching with interest of exactly how that's going to play out. Do you think that it is the biggest victory for her, and the copyright element, well, that was just a drop in the ocean? How do you think she's feeling with regards to this? Do you think that she will class this as a complete victory, or do you think it's going to stick in her throat that she didn't get a home run and it was all her way, all ruled in her favour? I would love to know your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the notification bell, and also that like button. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of my followers for all the tips and all the emails, DMs that everybody sends to me. It really is greatly appreciated. So thank you very much for watching once again.